Islam history in Barbados. Barbados isn't a Christian country, Islam being a minority religion. But due to secular of the country's constitution, Muslims are free to proselytize and build places of worship in the country. Statistics show that the Muslim population in Barbados is more than 4,000 people out of the country's 268,000 population. Most Muslims are immigrants or descendants of immigrants from the Indian state of Gujarat. A few immigrants from Guyana, Trinidad, South Asia, and the Middle East. There are about 200 native residents, make up the remainder of the growing Muslim community, representing 1.5% of the population. Nearly 90% of the entire population of Barbadians, also known colloquially as Bajans, are of African descent or Afro-Bajans. Most are descendants of slave laborers on sugar plantations. The remainder of the population includes Europeans or Euro-Bajans, Asians, Bajan Hindus and Muslims, and an influential group in the Middle East or Arab Bajans, who are mostly of Syrian and Lebanese descent. There are 4 mosques in this Caribbean country, namely the Jama Mosque, Medina Mosque, Makki Mosque and An-Noor Mosque. There is also an Islamic Academy, an Islamic Institute, a Muslim school and various other Islamic organizations in Barbados. To name them, the Islamic Academy of Barbados, Darul Iman Institute, the Barbados Muslim Association, the Islamic Teaching Center, the Institute of Islamic Propagation and Thought, the Medina Foundation and the Al-Falah Muslim School. The Barbados Muslim Association, BMA, is a body formed in 1997 to represent all the Muslim mosques on the island of Barbados. The Islamic Teaching Center was started in the 70s in the city and now has a permanent home at Harts Gap, Hastings. This center was set up to cater to the needs of the wider Barbadian community who were interested in Islam. The 4 mosques have fixed times for daily 5 times prayers along with weekly lecture programs on Quran and Hadith. These masajid also have Islamic classes which teach Quran and Sunnah to children from 4 years of age. Apart from official organizations, there is also an unofficial organization called Concern for the Future Barbados, which was founded by young preachers in 2014. This organization frequently carries out street dawah. Its aim is to propagate the Islamic message to the local non-Muslim population in Barbados, not necessarily in a bid to convince them but more to convey to them what beliefs Muslims actually hold. The concern was that even after 100+ years of Muslim presence in Barbados, Islam as a religion is still severely misunderstood on the island. Barbados is an island country in the Lesser Antilles of the West Indies, in the Caribbean region of North America and the most easterly of the Caribbean islands. It lies on the boundary of the South American and the Caribbean plates. Its capital and largest city is Bridgetown. English is the official language of Barbados. Inhabited by Kalinago people since the 13th century, and prior to that by other Amerindians, Spanish navigators took possession of Barbados in the late 15th century, claiming it for the Crown of Castile. It first appeared on a Spanish map in 1511. The Portuguese Empire claimed the island between 1532 and 1536, but abandoned it in 1620. An English ship, the Olive Blossom, arrived in Barbados on May 14, 1625. Its men took possession of the island in the name of King James I. In 1627, the first permanent settlers arrived from England, and Barbados became an English and later British colony. During this period, the colony operated on a plantation economy, relying on the labor of West African slaves who worked on the island's plantations. On November 30, 1966, Barbados gained independence and became a Commonwealth realm with Elizabeth II as Queen of Barbados. On November 30, 2021, Barbados transitioned to a republic within the Commonwealth. Barbados's population is mostly of African ancestry. Barbados is the 52nd richest country in the world in terms of GDP, gross domestic product, per capita, has a well-developed mixed economy, and a moderately high standard of living. Historically, the economy of Barbados had been dependent on sugarcane cultivation and related activities, but since the late 1970s and early 1980s it has diversified into the manufacturing and tourism sectors. According to Suleiman Boubilia, a Barbadian Muslim figure in his writing, Barbados had Muslims on its shores before the arrival of the Europeans. Many noted historians have argued that there was an African presence in the Caribbean long before Christopher Columbus. An American intellectual, Dr. Abdullah Hakim Quick, wrote in his book Deeper Roots that Muslims from the African continent were visiting this region for centuries before Columbus. His research has shown that African Muslims were engaged in regular contact with the Amerindian people of this region, and many married and settled in the Americas. Although Barbados was uninhabited when the English arrived here in 1627, historical evidence has shown that Barbados did have a presence of Amerindians, Arawaks and Caribs. The Portuguese who visited the island before the English called it Os Barbados, the bearded ones. Dr. Richard Alsop, a Caribbean linguist, argues that this Portuguese word actually refers to bearded people and not trees as previously thought. His research indicates that the Portuguese, when they visited the island, probably found bearded people living here. Amerindians are not known to carry much facial hair, and so these people were probably a mixed race of Amerindian and African. Muslim, a strong possibility. The next possibility of a Muslim presence on the island was from the slave trade. It is a known fact that many of the Africans taken as slaves from West Africa were Muslim. Many tried to keep their identity, but that was illegal, and it became lost in the generations that followed. There are some reports by missionaries that some of the slaves they encountered on the island spoke Arabic and practiced Islamic customs. Islam returns to Barbados in 1913 when Abdul Rohul Amin, a silk merchant from West Bengal, India, came to Barbados. Soon after, some more Bengalis arrived and they shared a house in Wellington Street, in the city. Some of them also lived in Milk Market and Tudor Street, upstairs Bata Shoes Shop, in Bridgetown. Most of these Bengalis married local Barbadian women and started families in Bridgetown. Today many well-known Barbadians are the grandchildren of them. Following the Bengalis, Muslims from Gujarat, West India arrived. It is reported that the first of the Gujarati Muslims came in 1929. Many of them settled in Tudor Street, in Milk Market in the early days. Following their settling in Bridgetown, more Gujarati Muslims came and took up residence in various parts of the city and its environs. They got involved in the itinerant trading business and was very successful, allowing them to buy houses in the city. Some of them also ventured into setting up stores in Swan Street and Tudor Street. From the late 60s and early 70s, a number of Afro-Barbadians have become Muslims. This trend continues until today, with many persons expressing an interest in Islam, and some actually entering the fold. Several activities are carried out to inform the wider society about Islam. These activities include articles in the press, news and features on the radio and television, public lectures and lectures in schools and other educational institutions. Muslims from the neighboring countries of Trinidad and Guyana who migrated here have also settled in Bridgetown and formed part of the community. Today the children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren of the first Muslims in Bridgetown are involved in all segments of society and make significant contributions to the development of Bridgetown and Barbados as a whole. Some are doctors, lawyers, engineers and public servants.